Well, and here we are on our first canal lock since last October. So this is Isis Lock. It's not much of a lift, as you can see. It's only a couple of feet, and then we'll be off down the Oxford Canal. We'll see how far we get today. It's a lovely day still, not too hot, a little bit of a breeze, and we're at Wolvercote now on our way out of Oxford. So you can see behind me I'm just emptying out Duke's Cut lock, ready for me to go in. It is down there, just tied up waiting to come in. There's a junction here, you can turn right, go through a lock, and then along a piece called Duke's Cut, which is an alternative way onto the Thames. I haven't done that route, I must do it one day just to see what it's like. But I've just come up on the canal through, well, not through the middle of Oxford, just to one side of it, the city centre. But now we're out into the country. So now we'll be going through villages, nothing more, until we get to Banbury, which is a good couple of days away, if not 3. Right, it's Tuesday morning and I took a day off from travelling yesterday. Did a few jobs around the boat, investigated the bilges more closely, and also looked into what I think is pretty much certain to be the source of the water in the bilge. So I haven't fixed it yet, but it can be fixed. And now we're just heading along a narrow little section in towards Thrupp, where there's an electric lift bridge. And then I'll be turning north, heading up towards Banbury, which I should get to tomorrow evening, and then I'll stay there at least part of the day because I've rearranged this week's music lesson for Thursday morning. Fortunately, as my teacher is also very mobile, she understands about needing to get to a place where there's a good signal before you can have a lesson. Right, let's carry on down to Thrupp. Well, this is the famous Shipton lock, which is hexagonal in shape, I believe, so it can hold more water. As you can see, there's a boat in the lock, there's a boat in front of me, then there's me, and there's a boat behind. So it's going to take a little while to get through. As I recall, this is a slow filling lock as well. It's all a bit fiddly, but the other side of the lock we join the river briefly, the River Cherwell. But I can see from here the green lights are flashing, which means the river level is good. You can get stopped here if the river level is up. So yes, you can see he's doing what I do, which is the lock beam is so close to the bridge wall that you just brace your back against the beam and then push against the wall. And it's still hard work, as I recall. Looking forward to that. Well, so much for plans. I'm at Somerton Deep Lock. You can see in the background there, this is the deepest lock on the Oxford Canal, 12 feet drop. They're all narrow, especially the bottom half of the canal, and what's happened now is a workboat has become jammed. It can't get out past the bottom gate, so they've had to call for assistance. So I've just stopped, and the boat behind me is also just tied up behind me, and we're just going to have to wait. It's a bit of a nuisance because I really want to get to Banbury today. So let's go and have a look. It's just starting to rain though as well. That's been expected all day. I'm hoping It's not going to rain all day. I might have to break out the wet weather gear. Go under this bridge to this very isolated but rather pretty little house. And there's the boat. So it's right down at the bottom, but you can see on the left hand side the gate hasn't gone flat against the wall, and it can be the smallest thing that gets caught behind the gate and boats will get jammed. It happened a couple of years ago at a lock further down, Baker's Lock, that's it, yes. We had about 5 or 6 boats all lined up then. Whoa, here comes the rain. Okay, I'm going to hide under the bridge for a moment. Yes. So this little house always fascinates me when we come here. It's only 1 room deep. It looks very nice, and they're way out in the middle of the country here. Right, I'm going to go back inside and put the kettle on. Success. It's coming out now. So once they're on their way, I'll be able to go in, and then the 2 boats behind me. So we've got just a little bit of a queue, as you might expect at this time of year. Just had a bit of a drama because I heard a toot of a horn, and I thought the boat had gone, the boat that stuck, because they closed the bottom gates, and I thought it was the top gates. And so I cast off just as the wind was blowing across the canal quite strongly, and I ended up behind that boat there into the bushes. So the chap on the boat behind very kindly took my stern line and hauled me across, and then took the centre line, and I was able to manoeuvre back into this position. Not my best hour. So this is the inside of Somerton Lock, and there's a bit of a build up now. There's 4 boats waiting at the bottom and a similar number, I believe, at the top. And this kind Australian gent has said that he's borrowed my windlass and he'll do the honours for me. So up we go. The problem, as not too surprising, was these thin rubber fenders that a lot of boats, including mine, have hanging down at the sides. If you leave them down when you're doing these locks, they can get pinched between the wall or the lock gate and the boat and get pulled off their mounting ropes, and they go behind the gates, and although they're only, here's my hand, about that thick, it's enough to stop the gate opening wide enough in these very narrow locks for boats to get through. It's a bit of early 19th century cost cutting coming back to bite us, because when the canal came from Banbury down to Oxford, there had already been a delay because they'd run out of money, and they did it somewhat on the cheap. So fewer locks and deeper and no wider than absolutely necessary. And also with a single gate at the top and a single gate at the bottom. So there we, oh, you can't really see that because I'm too close to it. But normally on a single lock, the top is a pair of small gates, and they haven't done that all the way down here. Well, that's it. Got through Somerton Lock with the aid of people on one of the boats coming down. There were 5 boats waiting at the top. Last time I checked, there were only 4 boats below, including me. So it's going to take a little while to clear the backlog though. And as I say, I Yes, anyway, as I said, but I'll say again, the little rubber fenders that hang down the side, that's what caused it. They got behind the gate, and small though they are, it's all it takes to make the gate stay open just a fraction, and then the boats get pinched. But the worst of it is, some people, open up the revs and get out of a lock, and so you take a run at it, and before you know where you are, you're wedged. And then your first problem is to get the boat out from behind the lock gate before you can even then open the lock gate and go fishing for the blockages. The guys on the workboat said that 2 fenders were fished out, and they believe there's a 3rd one down there waiting to bite again some day soon. So anyway, on we go. The rain's blown over, I hope, and my hat's dried out because it blew off my head earlier, and it took me a while to recover it, so it got completely soaked. The great thing about a proper Panama hat, the straw dries out very quickly, so it's just the hat band you have to wait for. Anyway, on we go to Banbury. Well, it's been a very changeable day today for weather. You can see dark clouds behind me. We've just had a rainstorm and a few claps of thunder. But where I'm going looks all right. We're at Tarver's Lock, which is near the village of King Sutton. And don't be so impatient, boat. I'll open the gate in a minute. In fact, over there you can see the spire of St. Peter and St. Paul in the village of King Sutton. And a very nice, well kept lock this. All beautifully mowed grass there. And but the point is, look at those clouds over there. That's where I've come from, and you can see the grey streaks underneath the clouds, which is rain falling. So I think it's a bit damp in Oxford. But a couple more miles now, maybe 3 more miles to Banbury, and that's me for today. Well, it's Saturday afternoon, and it's been an exciting couple of days. So I haven't done much video, so I thought I'd do a little bit of a catch-up here. I'm currently on the summit level of the Oxford Canal now. I've just come up the Claydon flight of locks, and I've now got a long cruise of flat water before I get to Marston Dons. I'm aiming to meet Marianne and an old friend of mine, Kim, tomorrow at the top end of Knapton Flight, near Knapton on the Hill. But I left, the weather was not great, but because of timing I left Banbury yesterday morning. The forecast wasn't great, a lot of rain, and they weren't kidding. we did get a lot of rain, but I made my way up as far as passed through Cropredy and got to Cropredy Marina, where I topped up with diesel. In fact, I realised the last time I actually filled the fuel tank was last October, and it was at Cropredy Marina, where I had the embarrassment of cutting it a bit too fine. So as I turned into the marina entrance, I ran out of fuel, and we turned into a giant gondola. So I got the barge pole out and punted the boat across to the fuel station. No problem like that yesterday, but I started up, the wind was getting up, it's quite open there, and by the time I'd got the boat turned around to go out of the marina, and then going out of the marina entrance, I suddenly realised the temperature warning light had come on the control panel, and the temperature gauge was showing right up in the red. So something had gone wrong very rapidly. So I pulled over to the side and tried to hammer spikes in to stop myself. The bank was in very poor state, so it was very difficult to get secured. But I got in. I phoned the marina I just left. They didn't have an engineer. I tried another boat yard down in Banbury. Couldn't get an answer from there, so I went back to the old River and Canal Rescue, and I had to wait for them to come this morning. They couldn't get to me last night, and the problem, as far as I could see, was the same old thing: coolant in the bilge, and the engine overheated. So chap, very good engineer, had a look around and he said, "Oh, I think I know what this is going to be." He said it happens sometimes with these beta engines. It's an airlock somewhere. So checked it all through and ran it up, refilled the cooling system, and it seems to be all right. Fingers crossed. And a quick check down to the fuel gauge then. It's very windy today. I normally wouldn't be travelling in wind like this, but I want to try to keep that appointment tomorrow, so I was quite looking forward to that. So we'll see what we can do. And so this is the view we've got now. You wouldn't believe it, but the sky was completely clouded over earlier, and we had hails. Well, we've had 2 hail showers today, and some really heavy rain and a lot of strong wind. But I did keep meeting other boats going the other way, which helped going up through the locks. And then on the last flight we met a volunteer who helped me up through the last 3 locks. I was thinking about stopping for lunch. I tried to pass a moored boat on a bend and the wind caught me, and before I knew it I was up against the bank. So I thought, okay, that's fate, I'll stop here for lunch. A little while later a hotel boat came down. I didn't know they had them on the Oxford, but they were struggling to get past me. In fact, they didn't quite make it. With lots of apologies, they did sort of scrape me rather than bump me, but they were heading straight to the boat behind me, and the man on that boat wasn't in a forgiving mood. He came out and gave them what for. So I ducked out of the way and left them to it. But I can see what the man on the boat means. This is not a great time to be travelling when the wind is this strong, because it does make controlling the boat very difficult. But I'm hoping there aren't so many people around now. Maybe they're all watching the tennis. So I'm going to make my way, if I can, across the summit level and maybe stop when I get to Marston Dolls, where they'll start the locks descending down towards Napton on the Hill.
I've driven up just this evening to meet up with Peter, hence it's dark as you can see. I'm going to help him through some locks tomorrow. I've got to go back to work for Tuesday, so it's only going to be a brief visit, but it's going to be my first bit of cruising for quite a while.